Hello and welcome back again to Stupid Boy UFC. Today we are going to talk about the worst cornermen in the history of the UFC, and we will name three cornermen that I think were the worst cornermen in the history of the UFC. The first one is Alex Pereira, being the cornerman of Sean Strickland, and there are a couple of reasons. Many people will say that no, he is not a bad cornerman because he has some advice to share against how to plan specifically against Adesanya. It was an association which helped both of them, because not both of them, to be honest, it just helped Sean Strickland in order to know the game plans, how to defeat someone like Adesanya. But there are some glaring holes in that. First of all, it's not okay. It's not a thing that alpha male should do, to team up with someone who just knocked you out. So from the perspective of Sean Strickland, he was teaming up with someone who knocked him straight cold out. So it was not something an alpha male should do. So I never liked this concept where you are teaming up with someone who has already knocked you out. So in that perspective, yes, it's about getting better, and it is about preparing for a certain type of mixed martial artist like Adesanya, because like Alex Pereira has all these wins against Adesanya. So in that case, people will say it is a nice thing, not a really bad thing. But I would argue these two are also future potential opponents. So people don't understand this. Yes, people will talk about that Alex Pereira is now in the light heavyweight division. He's not no more in the middleweight division. So they won't be potential opponents for each other. But I would argue that it can be still be the case, because because Sean Strickland, if he wins again and again, he will try to have a second title shot, because someone like Sean Strickland will not rest with one championship. I think he's someone who likes to fight more often, and that will keep him, because he said that fighting keeps him going. So I think he can have a shot in the next. He can do this thing where he can try to become a double champ, and he may have to face someone like Alex Pereira. And as we know, it is just a friendship, or it's just an association of mutual benefits. It's not like they are friends. So I don't think he's a good cornerman for Sean Strickland. The number two cornerman that I'm going to talk about is Pat Perry, in the match of Rose Namajunas and Carla Esparza. Carla Esparza honestly was doing nothing, so was Rose Namajunas. Although Carla Esparza was pushing the pace, and in that fight, that was the most boring title fight that I have ever saw. Literally all the women fights are boring, to be honest. Not trying to be not trying to be politically correct on this topic. All women fights are boring. No woman fight is actually very interesting, unless it's like very cool, and unless it's like Valentina Shevchenko. All these fights I think are boring unless it's like very dominant performance. One of the fights were interesting, where I saw Ronda Rousey getting knocked out cold. She was like very mean and all that, so it was good to see her getting knocked out. Never mind, I was about to talk about this fight where Carla Esparza was winning this fight with 3-0, and Pat Barry was saying that all the boo that you are hearing right now, he was giving this corner advice to Rose Namajunas. Hear me out. He was saying that all the boos that you're hearing, that means that you're winning, because that fight was boring. People were booing that fight, and people were booing both of them. And he was like, okay, you're winning this fight. And I think the judges were like, we should give this fight to Carla Esparza, because the champion is doing nothing. This was the first time that I thought that they were just like, why is this fight so boring? We have to somehow just punish the champion. So they just gave it to Carla Esparza. I don't think Carla Esparza won that. I don't think no one won that. I think it was just like 0-0 rounds. It was not even 10-10 rounds. Why should we give them 10-10? We should give them 0-0 for not even fighting. The third cornerman that we are going to talk about is actually the worst cornerman in the history of the UFC, and that is David Goggins, being the cornerman of Tony Ferguson against Paddy Pimblett And one of his earlier fights, no, actually just the last fight in the Paddy Pimblett fight, he was the cornerman of Tony Ferguson. And this ain't about being motivational. Yes, motivation helps. Like if you're Teddy Atlas, you can motivate someone to win. Yes, in boxing it helps because the techniques are already known, and there are few things that you can do in the boxing ring. But here you would need someone who will advise you. I thought that David Goggins knew his place. He did his thing. He just stood in the side. He just never said anything in the corner of being in the corner of Tony Ferguson. But the thing is, if there was someone who had the knowledge of mixed martial arts, not someone who is a casual like David Goggins, yes, many people won't like this opinion, but David Goggins is actually a casual in terms of what he knows about martial arts. He doesn't even know anything about wrestling, he doesn't even know anything about striking, he's nothing in terms of martial arts. He was some kind of motivational speaker, he has that history, but he's nothing in terms of martial arts, he knows nothing. And what he did in that being that cornerman was absolutely nothing. He just wasted one spot. Although he knew his place, he didn't say anything to Tony Ferguson. He knew that he didn't know what to do in terms of technique in martial arts, but he just stayed there and just caused one of those spots of where a specialist coach should be. He was in that spot, so he just wasted one spot of Tony Ferguson, a good cornerman that Tony Ferguson can have. So it is like he and the techniques that he uses is like not applicable to the world of mixed martial arts. Tony Ferguson, I think specifically here, it's not the case where like Tony Ferguson is already having good cardio, or is already someone who never quits, and it was like David Goggins was someone who increases your cardio, and it's like he is worse cornerman. He's worse cornerman for someone who is fighting in mixed martial arts fights because of lack of the knowledge and technical skills that he has. But he is the worst cornerman possible for Tony Ferguson. You know why? Because Tony Ferguson is someone who is already very gritty. He's already someone who never gives up. He's already someone who has good cardio. I don't know why Tony Ferguson was like, I don't have good I'm losing fight because of technical reasons, so I just have the cornerman who will try to motivate me somehow. I think Tony Ferguson is already one of the most motivated person in the world. So I don't think, man. And I like Tony Ferguson. Like he is one of those old martial artists who I think deserves better ending in his career. But these men were just using Tony Ferguson for some clout. I won't be ashamed in saying that David Goggins is nothing in martial arts, and he's just trying to be relevant by attaching his name to Tony Ferguson. And Tony Ferguson wants this thing. I don't know why Tony Ferguson does this thing which hampers his career in a negative way. But that's it. That's what I wanted to say. These are my opinion about who are the worst cornermen in the history of the UFC. If you like the content, please like, share and subscribe. That's what we do in this channel. We talk about martial arts, we talk about football, we talk about the things that get me excited in a good way. And that's what we do in this channel. If you like the content, please like, share and subscribe.